Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. There's a whole lot of shaking going on in Illinois. Booms have jolted residents in 2 different towns. It's so loud that it shakes homes and windows in Elgin and has been doing so for the past 6 months.
It's pounding. They have become louder.
The rumbling typically occurs overnight, but has happened during the day as well. Another mystery on the night of December 15th sounded like an explosion and also rattled windows in Paxton. It was heard as far away as 30 miles, and some witnesses called 911.
We've heard anything from a sonic boom from a jet flying over to a meteorite to aliens to just everybody's got all these theories and stuff. And I said, I really don't know. I have no clue.
One person wrote, there were several smaller booms first, then a pause before the big one that rattled our windows, man. Others say they saw a big green streak in the sky, and then something fell from the sky. A Montana man learned why it's never a good idea to shoot at Bigfoot. You better believe it's not good to shoot at my buddy Squatch. The victim was target shooting on public land near Helena when he says he was shot at several times by another man who mistook him for old Sasquatch. The man was not wearing hunter's orange. He was able to get cover before any of the bullets hit him. He confronted the shooter, who told him he thought he was Bigfoot. Yeah, You'll find these stories and more at ParanormalRadio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
Hi, guys. Matt Ray with America's First News. And if you're like me, you're probably still looking for that special Christmas gift for your wife or girlfriend. Treat her to the very best this year. The world's softest pajamas from Pajamagram. Because they are the world's softest pajamas, they're lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny. They're like cashmere, only better, and you'll love the way they look. She'll love the way they feel. The softness, the warmth, the comfort. And if you're like me, you can't stand wrapping presents. It's tough to do. Well, get this. Pajamagram includes free gift packaging. All you have to do is make the order, and delivery is guaranteed by Christmas. Plus, they're backed by a 100% lifetime guarantee. You risk nothing but the look on her face, guys, when she opens the Pajamagram. So go to Pajamagram.com right now. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you.
We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better. And we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-Drift. Okay, nice. Zero to orbit.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Roop.
Good evening. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. We are live on the website is lightingthevoid.com. We are also live on KTOK, Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. We are here every night, Monday night through Thursday night. Remember, on Monday nights, we are a 2-hour show right after Deep Waters Radio with Ronnie McMullen, who was just on. Make sure you check out that show every Monday night. I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. It is Monday night, January the 7th, and we're going to talk about something pretty interesting because I've decided that it's time to do this again. We're going to bring Ryan back on the show, and we're going to talk about some pretty important stuff here. I think that it's necessary. It's something that we should do because conspiracy is all the rage right now. People are hurting right now, and the economy is hurting, and there's a lot of weird things going on. And I believe that has to do with a little bit of planetary cycles and stuff, but we'll get into that. But I wanted to talk tonight specifically about the conspiracy theories, the ones that we follow, the ones that we believe in, and what that actually does, not just here, but also in the realms of the internal, the deep. Does it affect those realms as well? And we're going to talk a little bit about some danger. So when I say, are we safe? I want to talk about something pretty interesting that everybody's been talking about. Now, we all know the 5G stuff's coming out, right? We know that that's going to happen. I don't think that it's not a conspiracy, so to say, because it's going to happen, right? but there's a lot of talk about governmental people trying to kill us off because of it. But real quick, we got to know that might not just be a conspiracy. It could be greed, right? But it is definitely not safe. Before we get into this, I want to say that you can donate to the show. If you go to lightingthevoid.com, you can donate. You can use the Amazon portal. You can grab a t-shirt. Another thing that I think a lot of you really need to do right now is you need to get some CBD oil, and the best stuff that you can get, bar none, because I've tried all of them, is Ancient Life oil. You need to grab a bottle of that and get your system protected. And I wish I could say, you do the tea thing, clean yourself out and do the oil and you're good. And I wish I could tell you all the stuff the reasons why, but while you're listening to the show, if you're in front of your computer or whatever, just Google CBD oil and go to ancientlifeoil.com and you'll see the stuff there. I always get the extra strength. But you need to do that right now. And the reason why I say this is because, I follow astrology, right? There's about 3 or 4 astrologers that I follow. And the first 6 months of this year is going to be typically rough. It's going to be like the hero's journey. Now, I can just tell you, because I want to give them credit for the astrologers that I follow. One is obviously Mary Ducina. The other one's Austin Coppock. And the third is Jeff Harmon. This is going to be, this first part of this year, man, is going to be tough, but it's also going to be rewarding for those that play the hero. In other words, do what you need to do, get stuff done, stay positive as possible, and help as many people as possible. And you're going to get pretty rewarded at the end of this. But this 5G thing is what's really freaking me out. And before we get into this, I want to welcome on to the show Ryan Gable. Ryan, thanks for coming on the show.
You got it, Joe. I'm always glad to be here.
So Ryan tonight has an awesome show about the booms, and that's something that I just don't understand. But Ryan's done quite a bit more research on that than I have. But the 5G thing I've been really kind of focused on because this is just, everybody knows, it's the plan that these telecom companies that are focused on to install millions of small cell towers on utility poles, basically. On all our public buildings and schools, on our bus stop shelters, and public parks, anywhere they want, in national parks, anywhere on federally owned land. But in local urban communities, there would be a cell tower. It has to be no less than 500 feet along every street. And that's their plan. But as bad as you think that it is with all the towers around, that might seem crazy from, oh God, look at all these towers, are going to be walking into a microwave, right? But from the standpoint of exposure, when I'm talking about radio frequencies, which is something Ronnie just talked about on his show before this, you'll be in close proximity to that stuff. But the thing that is really more scary about all that is the satellites. It's even more alarming. There'll be beaming of millimeter-length microwaves at the Earth from thousands of new communication satellites. Thousands. They already have in development 20,000 of these satellites. The FCC gave approval for this to SpaceX back in March. And that was to launch 4,425 satellites. Why did I say 20,000? Because SpaceX isn't going to be the only people launching these little bastards. So not only are we going to have these little poles putting 5G everywhere, we're going to have the satellites in the air. And they're going to be using phased array antennas. Phased array is something you can look up, but it shoots beams of radiation at cell phones, basically. And they'll use the same type of phased array antennas as will be used by the ground-based 5G systems. So now you're going to have towers, satellites, all doing this. Now you're going to send very tightly focused beams of intense microwave radiation at each of these devices. That's here. And each device will send a beam of radiation back to the satellite. So you're talking about a literal microwave we're going to be in. And I've been hearing about this, so I did some research on it. And it is pretty freaky, man. If they do what they want to do, they've already got the approval for it. There's going to be more 5G towers than there ever was 4G. And think about that, Ryan. 20,000 satellites around the Earth, specifically for shooting tightly beamed microwave radiation beams at us. There's a lot more stuff to this, but I can talk about that in a minute. What do you think about that?
You're right. There are a lot of other things that contribute to an investigation into that subject. A big question would be, why is it being done? And I don't feel, despite any official explanation or any public acceptance of an official explanation, that those explanations are justified, despite the fact that you may be a scientist and you may be in support of this, or you may be a scientist and you may not support this, whatever the case might be. Saying that we need 20,000 satellites or 100,000 satellites, or saying that we need small cell on every other home because the signal isn't as strong, so they have to put them closer and closer and closer together. And as you alluded to, creating a literal microwave of the Earth. I find it strange that we're going to do all of that and risk possible dangers to our health so that we can download movies quicker, so that we can download music quicker, so that we can stream Netflix faster. Doesn't that seem kind of strange, Joe, that that is the explanation? We're spending either as an individual company, if you were to look at Google or you were to look at private funders like Elon Musk, you're spending billions of dollars so that you can download an application on your phone faster. So you think that a company is spending $1 billion so you can watch Netflix without lagging in your internet stream? Do you really think that's the reason that they're doing this? So I don't buy that's the official version, and I don't buy that, Joe.
That's the reason they're marketing it to us. But again, I don't want to say that it's a conspiracy just yet, because I want us to be careful about what we focus on as conspiracies. And I'll tell you why. There's a real esoteric reason for that. But you have to imagine that this is not like going from 2% milk to 3% milk. It's not like 1% more milk fat. Okay. 5G is 10 times stronger than 4G. 10 times the power. That's what they're showing on here. This is based on the research I've shown. That means, like, if you're in a crowded location like a school, an airport, anywhere, a public thing like that, there's going to be probably hundreds of thousands, probably hundreds or thousands, I wouldn't say hundreds of thousands, of invisible beams of microwave radiation flying through the environment. They've already done tests on rats with this stuff, little bitty rats, with little bitty beams of 5G radiation. And guess what? Tumors. And it was pretty much almost 90% of them got it. That's pretty scary. I mean, your bodies are going to be penetrated by this stuff. There's no doubt about it.
If you always look at the explanation for why it's being done, in the case of having satellites for internet coverage over the entire planet, whether that's a Facebook plan, Mark Zuckerberg has talked about that. It's a Bill Gates plan. Bill Gates has, I think, talked about that, or the foundation has supported it. Elon Musk, Google, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All, again, because they want you to be able to download something on your phone faster. If you look at cell phones in general, and you look at the voice assistants like Siri for Apple, that was developed by government and military investigation into artificial intelligence. I don't think that the Pentagon, working with Boston Dynamics and working with private enterprises and working with universities to develop AI, is doing that so you can ask your phone what time it is. I don't think that all of the things that we're sold, as you said, that's the way that it's sold to us, all of the things that we're sold are the reasons why these things are being done. And we have to start there, I think, because if we just immediately launch into, oh my God, they're trying to kill us, we don't get anywhere. And if we do get somewhere, we get there really, really slow. So we need to examine the reasons why we're being told this is happening. And then if we can, I wouldn't say debunk them, but if we can prove them to be irrational and illogical and to make no sense whatsoever, then we can take it a step further and say, okay, those aren't the reasons why. Why is this being done now? Let's go a little bit further and do a little more research and see where we end up.
Well, just a thought here. When I say get supplements and health products, I mean it. Like, I think, you've heard that theory, Ryan. People think supplementation is it's unnecessary or redundant. I think it's about to be more important than ever. And I'm not I'm not a big conspiracy guy. But here's why. Here's what I'm saying why 5G is so much more dangerous than all of don't get me wrong, 4G and 3G, or at least 4G is a microwave. It's a microwave. But here's why it's more dangerous. Now, this is from this guy named Arthur Furstenberg. He's an author, researcher, and advocate for limiting radio frequency exposures from the environment. And he explains the analysis of 5G radiation. And this was published back in 2002, long time ago. And he stated this: when an ordinary electromagnetic field enters the body, it causes charges to move and currents to flow. It's just natural. But when extremely short electromagnetic pulses enter the body, which is what 5G is, something else happens. The moving charges themselves become little bitty antennas that radiate the electromagnetic field and send it deeper into the body. And these things are called Brillouin precursors. I probably butchered that. They become significant when either the power or the phase of the waves change rapidly enough. I think if 5G satellites will fill the sky, because they've already got government approval for this, 20,000. That seems a little bit extreme to me, but that's quite a bit. Here's how we break this down. SpaceX plans on eventually putting 12,000 satellites in the air. OneWeb, which is a company I've never heard of, it plans on putting 4,560 satellites. And Boeing is actually going to put up around 3, and Spire Global is going to put up 972 satellites. You guys remember back when I was telling you about this whole Space Force thing and Trump, and they were trying to scare us so they can... There's something else going on here, I think. But I wanted to talk about this specifically, Ryan, is about what we fear. Because I believe in elementals. I believe in this spirit realm. I believe in what Dr. Stylianos Tesla said. We put these thought forms in our mind, and we actually create, well, we talked about this last Friday, something in these realms, right? We create something that's actually real, that affects us and affects other people. They're called elementals, thought forms, and sometimes even demons, depending on how far along these thought forms go back and how many people agree on the name of whatever it is. But that's a whole nother different thing and a whole bunch of semantics I don't want to talk about. But if we focus on the fact that, hey, our government is trying to kill us with 5G because they want us dead, and we put these thought forms into this realm, guess what? Regardless if that's the government's motive, that's what's going to happen, which makes me think that this is a cause and effect of some already other conspiracies where they talk about depopulation and things of that nature. I hope I'm not confusing you yet. But what I'm saying is we need to be careful about what conspiracies we think are real. Look at the research before you start spouting stuff off. I'll give you a good example. A video that I was watching that Ryan showed me, which I couldn't believe it until he showed it to me, was Mr. Wilcock, which I don't care to talk about too much, but I had to see this to believe it, was telling people, and this thing already had 500,000 views, that the government was putting little bombs on everybody's bridges, and also they were going to siphon gas out of everybody's gas tank.
That's the funniest one I've ever heard. I've got the sound clip of that if you'd like me to play it here in a second, because you almost have to hear that to believe it. Not only
500,000 views, but the host of the show, every time he would say it, they would spell it out as if this is important. You know how a video does, right? This is important. They're going to siphon the gas. And so what happens is this universe is run by natural laws and all of these other things. And so you get all these people focused on that stuff, and it creates something that probably isn't as crazy as that, but ends up eating up your gas. So I think that esoterically we need to be careful about what we think about. But now we've got some real dangers. This stuff is starting to worry me. This 5G thing really does worry me. I mean, they're going to put in more towers than they've ever put in. Can you imagine how many satellites that is compared to what's already up there? It doesn't even make sense to have that many satellites. I'm scared of it. I got to tell you, I'm not going to lie. I don't live in fear, but I want to be able to go outside without worrying about it, you know? I just think it's something that we all need to look into. If you have to go to your local officials or whatever, do that. I mean, people talking about it. And by the way, if you want to call in the show, it's 1-800-588-0335. Ryan Gable, I think he's on the line. You still with me?
Yes, I am still here. I was just letting you go through your monologue, go through your thought.
Well, hey, when I talk, you can just jump right on top of me. I don't care. And then just start talking, because I don't want to spread irrational fear. That bothers me already. There's so much conspiracy and crazy stuff out. That's why the only shows I listen to are like yours and Clyde Lewis's, because Clyde seems like he has a rational mind, but I'm afraid of the thought forms that we're creating with this stuff too. But now I'm in conflict, because the more I look at this 5G stuff, it really does freak me out.
I think it goes both ways, though, in terms of looking at something that we consider to be sensational, hyped, and something that we're fearful of, something that in some cases in media is sold to the public as something they should be concerned with because it's scary, and therefore panic and come to us for your information, be afraid. That's what gets good ratings. That's what's good clickbait. But if you were, I talk about this with people in my personal life sometimes, because I'm accused of being negative. I'm sure you've been accused of being negative before, Joe.
No, never.
Maybe in the past, when I first started reading and getting into radio, maybe I was a negative person. But over the years, I kind of looked at that in a different way, philosophically speaking, in terms of just thinking about it and looking at it from a different point of view. If you're in your house at night and you hear a window break, somebody is breaking into your home, and you tell your friend or your wife or husband, hey, I think someone's breaking in, and they tell you, just go back to sleep, it's your imagination. And then you hear somebody kicking on your bedroom door, trying to bust your bedroom door down. And you're grabbing, the gun, or you're grabbing a baseball bat, and the person else who's also with you in the room says, "What are you doing? Put that down. It's like midnight. Go back to sleep." You're like, "Somebody's trying to break into the room." They're like, "It's just your imagination. Go back to sleep." And then they break in, and they're choking your wife out, and she's like, "Just go back to sleep. It's just your imagination." What's negative is ignoring things that can harm us. That's negative. What's positive is addressing those things that can harm us. Like, for example, if you go to a grocery store and you look at ingredients in food and you find something that says aspartame, or you find something that says natural flavor or artificial flavor, and that could be a variety of different things. It could be aspartame. And you are aware of what aspartame is as a neurotoxin. That's not something that's disputed unless you're just ignorant and you don't want to believe what is a fact. And you inform somebody about that. "Excuse me, ma'am, that diet soda you're drinking has aspartame in it. Do you know what aspartame is?" And usually the initial reaction is either, "What is it? Can you tell me?" Or, "Don't say that. It's my soda. I'll drink what I want. It's my body. Don't try to control me." See, that's negative, because I'm not trying to control somebody. I'm just sincerely trying to help somebody. Do you know what's in that beverage? And if you truly don't care, that's fine. But it's not negative, is my point, to read, to learn, to be aware if someone's breaking into your apartment or your house. It's not a negative thing to acknowledge those things. It's negative perhaps to dwell on them and say, "My life's over, the government's going to kill me, the Illuminati
Right.
siphon gas out of my car." Do you see what I'm saying, though? It's positive to address when we're under threat by something, or when something could harm us. That's positive, Joe.
Now, do you go around and say that to people, though, that you just don't know? Like, "Excuse me, ma'am or sir, you're drinking aspartame"?
Yeah, sometimes I'll do that, but it's not necessarily aspartame. I just use that as a general example.
I know, but I was thinking about that, because I'd be like, "Who in the hell is it?" I know I'm drinking, because your friends are always going to tell you that stuff, right? They're going to say, "Don't drink that crap. It's bad for you." And then just to have some stranger come out of the blue and be like, "Do you know that what you're drinking is bad for you?" Yeah, I mean, I could see why people would be like, "Get the hell away from me" type thing.
Well, there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it too. I used to say that, like, "Hey, do you know what you're drinking is bad for you?" I don't do that anymore. I'll say, are you aware that there's a neurological disruptor in that beverage? Something like that. Something, it's not so intimidating.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what a lot of people tend to respond much more positively to that. And they ask me, what do you mean by that? I mean, I've gotten into a few conversations about this. There was a couple at the store, and they were buying tortillas, and I started talking to them about tortillas. They were looking at ingredients, which is what I see a lot. And I'll ask them, what are you looking to avoid? And they'll tell me, and I'll say, well, did you also know that that ingredient there is just another name for what you're trying to avoid? And they said, I didn't know that. So then they're very thankful for that, which I do those things because I would want somebody to tell me. I ate a lot of really nasty stuff for a long time and nobody ever informed me. I'm just using the food as an example. It could be for anything. It could be any subject you're interested in. I'd want someone to help me, inform me. I just feel like other people might desire that help if they were made aware too. And that doesn't make me a better person or a special person. I'm just trying to help. But if people don't want help, that's fine.
Yeah, because the way I'm looking at it, man, is if this 5G is as dangerous as this Furstenberg guy says, I don't think it's going to matter what we eat or drink, and as long as we're going to have to go outside and wear weird hats, you know? I don't know. I mean, let's look at this from the pharmacological point of view. Did I say that right? Pharmacological? That's probably the wrong word, but pharmaceutical companies.
Pharmacological, I think that's right.
What do they have to have? What percentage rate of approval do they have to get something approved? I'm not being stupid here. Like if you take a medicine and it's like heart medicine or blood pressure medicine or anything like that, wouldn't you want to know that everybody that tried this stuff didn't die or got cancer from it? You know, they might have had some side effects, but nobody died. Well, a lot of these tests, people die and stuff, you know, well, it's only like a small percent or whatever. And they let that through. Well, in the name of greed, I assure you, bigger and crazier and more dangerous things are going on. And this is one of them. And what I'm trying to say without sounding too crazy is that if you guys really believe that there's some dark cabal out there trying to depopulate the earth, and you've got millions of people focused on this, then that's exactly what the hell is going to happen. And the way that it happens, because you guys know I believe in a magical universe, is it comes through in a form that makes sense to this paradigm. Every now and then we'll get glimpses of stuff that don't. That's called paranormal activity. That's why it's not frequent. But something on a mass scale that you guys are pushing, they don't know the power of what they're doing. In the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he talks about this. Man calls them from below unaware. And I'm butchering the text here, but that's what he says. In other words, we call things from the underworld unaware. And the more people that agree on it, the more powerful it is. So why is there this big conspiracy agenda? I think it's a dangerous thing in a way that we need to be careful. It's not, people are creating podcasts now, conspiracy podcasts, not because it's cool or they're trying to help you, because they know they're going to get a lot of hits and it's fun to talk about. But they're scaring the hell out of a lot of people. That's my point. And they're creating elementals and thought forms about it, which may sound crazy to some of you, but I would challenge to look at your experience in your life and tell me if you don't think that you've created your own thought forms and elementals that have actually hurt your life. So imagine the power of millions of people doing it.
That's how a lot of platforms sell survival products or water filters. I mean, I have a water filter, but I don't sell a water filter because if you don't buy it, you're going to die of fluoride exposure. There's a neutral way to, I think, inform people, and there's a neutral way to inform yourself, and that is looking at things objectively without allowing emotion to get involved, in the sense that you read something, and just because you read a news article, there's some study and it says one way or another, 5G is okay, 5G could be bad, and accepting one or the other as your in one story that says 5G is not that bad. It was written by an industry that manufactures and puts out the components and the parts to put up these towers. They say it's not bad, so that becomes your reality, or that's what you want to believe. And immediately that is just the reality that clicks and becomes. Or on the other side of things, people that just don't really have any information about, let's say, 5G. So they read one article from some blog that says it's bad, and there might not be any credible information there, but then that becomes the reality because that's what they want to believe. And it goes for anything. It goes for food. It goes for 5G. It goes for aliens. And it is a part of that so-called, let's say, conspiracy podcast community, Joe, where, yeah, people aren't really concerned with helping others or exploring the unexplored. They're concerned with tagging their podcasts or their videos with a few key words because they know that's going to get them clicks. They know that's going to get them traffic, and therefore they're going to make a lot of money. And the people that make a lot of money, because they know how to, either they pay for advertisements or they pay to have their show or whatever they're doing promoted, they have a lot of money backing them. Those are the people that become the experts in the field in a lot of cases, more and more today. And they're spreading information that is at best fantasy. It's imagination. Like you said, literally, people know what my feeling is on this, so I'm not dragging you into it. I'm not dragging Joe into this, but David Wilcock literally said the plan for the cabal in 2019, this was recent, is to siphon the gas out of everybody's car using a tanker truck.
Can you play that through Skype somehow, or do you have to send that to me?
I think I can play it.
Try it and see if it works, because I want to hear it.
Yeah, let me cue it up here. And I was walking the other day down the street, taking a very long walk, and I just looked over at this parking lot of cars, and I thought, tanker truck. How, can Santa Claus go around the world in one night and give gifts to every kid? That's what this guy's basically saying the cabal's going to do. He's going to visit every single car, and they're going to take every single drop of gas out of every single car. The cabal is. Like, how absurd is that? Where do you get that? How do you have that type of imagination?
Well,
like, where do you come up with this stuff, Joe?
I think sometimes they take something that's happened in real life and they word it different to get a little bit of emotion involved. In other words, like, so in the Spreaker chat over on Spreaker, Dennis puts in here, he said, fuel siphoning from other countries has always happened on a commercial industrial scale. For example, Lebanon, and truckers, or quote, time bombs, are just fuel consumption monitors to discourage illegal trade. See, I don't know anything about that, but the way he worded it, it made it sound like there's bombs on every bridge and people are going to go around sticking hoses in our cars.
Yes. Well, that's another part of the problem is, and I've got this queued up if it'll play. That's another part of the problem is not looking at things that are serious and literal as serious and literal, or looking at things that are maybe metaphoric as serious and literal, and taking information out of context and looking at real events, real stories. Like I could tell you, I have told you this story several times, Joe, a woman I met at a conference in Los Angeles several months ago, and she said, did you know that there's a colony of children on Mars that are being raped? It's a sex colony. And I said, no, I don't believe that. She said, but it's true. And I said, well, can you prove it to me? And so she just pulls up an article about how Jeff Bezos spent some money to put a telescope in space. And she showed it to me like the headline was sex colony on Mars. And I said, that's just an article about Jeff Bezos and a telescope. She said, but that's proof. Why else would he want to put the telescope in space? I said, I don't know. He wants to explore the stars. He wants to start a space program. I don't know, but it has nothing to do with some sex colony on Mars. But that is something that's factual. Jeff Bezos did spend money to put a telescope in space. And it has nothing to do with this other story, but you link the two together to give credibility to what you've essentially made up or what you heard spread and circulated on the internet or through radio, which that whole thing about the Mars sex colony, that started as just as a comment that a guest made on Alex Jones's show. Then Alex Jones got rid of the guy and has been trying to fight off that monkey for over 2 years now. And now that's something that's spread into the truther community. And now Laura Eisenhower and David Wilcock and all the rest in that little cabal say that it's true. I remember listening to Alex Jones that day when the guy made that statement, and Jones refuted it and said, nah, I don't really believe that. And now people say Alex Jones started that, and then this whole Wilcock, Eisenhower, that whole cabal is saying that that's 100% factual based on a news article about Jeff Bezos. It's so ridiculous.
Am I missing could I be possibly missing something here? I mean, what is the deal with everybody wanting to follow this stuff, regardless if it's true or not? It just seems like there's some type of entertainment factor. That's kind of the same reason why people went to Black Sabbath concerts when they first came out. You know,
maybe it's because of the popular phrase from the X-Files, "I want to believe." We believe so badly that we'll believe anything. Or we typically think that government and authority is involved in some conspiracy. They're always wrong and they're always trying to hurt us. So anything alternative must be true. The mainstream media lies, so anything alternative must be true. And so we turn to any alternative source, and we end up with those podcasts of people that sell fear and ignorance as truth.
Yeah, I don't mind asking questions like Eddie Bravo and Sam Tripoli. They started a conspiracy podcast with comedians that started doing conspiracy. The way they do it is they ask questions about the motives and agendas behind certain things, or just questions that interest you, things that contradict and don't make sense. That to me is perfect, right? That's stuff like Clyde does and other people do. They ask questions to get you thinking, so you'll look into it for yourself. That's great. But when narratives get told about dark cabals, and yeah, look at this stuff, man, it's got pentagrams all over it. There's definitely, I'm like, name one person in that cabal and tell me who they are. Like, give me the name of them and tell me why the pentagram scares you so much. Don't just say, look at it, it's got pentagrams on it, right? And it never goes that far. And the problem is I'm not concerned about their audience. I don't care if they get 1 million viewers. If they were talking about cookbooks but when they talk about things like that and they believe it, like they're pushing it as a narrative that's true, and then you get 500,000 or 1 million people following and believing this stuff. And these are spiritual people too, new age type spiritual people that believe that their thoughts, because they talk about it and agree with me, that their thoughts and emotions create things that in reality, right? Kind of like The Secret, but different. And I believe it on another level, like a Rudolf Steiner type, animism type level. So if they believe that, don't you think they would be careful about what they really believe? Right? Don't you think that would matter? I could be wrong.
I think it matters, but I also, in my opinion, think that some of these leaders, these Jim Jones style leaders in the alternative new age communities are seriously mentally ill, or they're seriously delusional, and they actually believe these things are happening. And so they don't look at it from that point of view. They look at it as they are gods and heroes here to save mankind from the evil Illuminati cabal. You know, those words get thrown around so often now. Everything is a triangle, and that means you're a member of the Illuminati. If you've ever drawn a triangle, you're in the Illuminati. If somebody has the Eye of Providence, they're in the Illuminati. The dollar bill is currency of the Illuminati. I don't even know what that means. And I ask people, like, people say, you're a conspiracy theorist. And so now I ask them, what do you mean? And they say, you believe in conspiracies. And I said, name one. What conspiracy do I believe in? Well, you think, like, there's poison in water. Well, yeah, I've got a Harvard study right here that says fluoride in drinking water causes bone cancer in animals and in adults and children as well. That's Harvard University. That's what they said, not what I said. And I've noticed that approaching it from that type of reaction obviously is a lot more progressive in the sense that we get further in doing what we're doing without reacting, and that's magic, without reacting on what somebody else implies that we are. And instead of saying, well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and then trying to defend that talking point, you're never going to win, because you're just going to be defeated because of the association with the conspiracy theorist. So that's why I like to address the question, and that is to ask an opposing question. Well, what's a conspiracy theorist? Oh, you believe in all that alien stuff? Well, explain to me what alien stuff. What are you talking about? Are you talking about like I watched a movie and think that the movie's real, or are you talking about like microbes found on the outside of the International Space Station and that survive in a vacuum? Like what exactly are you talking about? I'm tired of being on the hot seat, Joe. I'm sure you are too. I'm tired of being in the hot seat. I'm tired of being always the one that's questioned because I question things. It's time to start questioning people who don't question anything. I want to turn and flip the script on that. And unfortunately, a lot of our community radio and so on and so forth is involved in the questioning, non-questioning group, where they think that they're questioning things by actually following the leader of a cult that just tells them what they want to hear and tells them what they actually might truly believe because they're delusional. And so they think they're asking questions. They think they're getting to whatever they call the truth, which is just thrown around like it's water nowadays. It's free. And they're actually following something that's not at all in any way, shape, or form anywhere close to honest and free and true expression. And they're not asking the types of questions that can help advance them to a better understanding. They're just basically listening to a CNN broadcast. That's what David Wilcock is like anymore. It's like listening to a CNN broadcast. There are some mainstream sources that give you credible information, and there are a lot of alternatives that give you credible information. But in the mainstream and alternative, and in whatever these weird communities are that we call, there are mainstream type sources that just peddle nonsense to make profit or to do that and to also reinforce certain beliefs. And that's really what it boils down to, like with textbooks that are so outdated, and we know that the information in the textbook is wrong, but it costs too much for the state to pay to have the textbooks, have them updated. And so they just literally allow kids to be taught things that even orthodox science, let's say, acknowledges as incorrect. A lot of it is money, a lot of it is ego, narcissism, a lot of it is just laziness. There are a lot of factors that go into this. And I mean, that's my personal opinion, Joe, why you have to do this for yourself, by yourself. You can listen to Lighting the Void, you can listen to the Secret Teachings, but you have to be empowered, and you have to even question me and question what I do, question Joe, question yourself. Always ask questions and keep that balanced, objective point of view on everything that you look at and examine.
Let's look at the email box here. And this is kind of perfect for this. I got an email from somebody named Sean. It says, I started listening to your show, Lighting the Void, about 6 months ago. At first, I thought you were just another know-nothing poser idiot trying to cash in on the paranormal magic alternate reality craze. But after listening more to your show, I realized you were and are a true seeker of knowledge. While I don't always agree with you on Christian dogma, good versus evil, limited thinking stuff, and I think you lack basic knowledge of certain areas, you sound like you try. And you study and learn and actually enjoy what you're doing. I respect you for doing what you've done and what you've given to people all over the world who are interested in listening and learning about these topics. And I'll continue to listen. I wish you all the best in your continuing endeavors. Thank you. Right? Here's the thing. I don't know what to say to that. Thanks, I guess. I'm glad that I'm not this idiot at your first impression that you thought I was. I'm also glad that you know the truth right now that I'm just getting to because I lack basic knowledge, and I appreciate your respect. Here's the thing. When people talk about truth seeking, this stuff's been going on forever. Truth seeking conspiracies, this show seeking that show, beyond this, fade to that, whatever. It's been going on forever. The void I've made the void word come a little bit more popular. There's other people putting that word in their show now. Most of these people think they already know the truth. And eventually you're going to get around to that truth that they understand. Which is fascinating to me, because if you go up to one of these 20,000 satellites or whatever, and you view down and you put a little light bulb on every human being on the planet, there's millions of dots, like ants, billions of dots, actually. And they all know the truth in their little tower. I don't know what to say to that email. At first I was like, oh, well, thanks for listening. But the more I think about it, Yeah, I might have given you a first impression that I'm an idiot because I'm Southern. I don't know what to say to that. I really don't want to assume there, so I'm sorry. But I'm kind of insulted by that. Would you be insulted by an email like that? I feel a little bit insulted and validated. Look, this show is not for somebody that already knows a bunch of conspiracies and truth and needs validation or somebody pushing it or any. This show is about the journey that we're on, discovering this stuff. I've changed my mind about things on here so much. It's crazy. And I will continue to do so. This show is based on experience, our experience, and some of the facts that we already know. And that's it. That's the way you get to your answers, through your experience. And so my whole point is let's say that this person already knows about the dark cabal and that pentagrams are evil and all this stuff. And he puts up a YouTube video and he spreads it and 500,000 people follow it. From what I've learned from Daskalos and Dr. Stylianos Ateshlis and other esotericists is that you create what you think and you put your emotions behind it even more, creates it even more. Therefore, there's some magical force behind it. That should matter. That's a little bit dangerous. And to this guy that sent me the email, I got to tell you, I'm glad I have your respect or whatever, but I'm halfway insulted by that because I don't like self-righteous people. I really don't. Maybe I need to get over it, but I cannot stand somebody that's already made a truth, which is fine, but you've got your own truth and your own box, and eventually I'll get around there and you'll have fun listening to me do it. That's the message I get from that. Need your input here, Ryan. I don't know whether to be mad or laugh.
Maybe you should do a little bit of both. I've gotten all kinds of emails over the years, and I initially was kind of offended at certain things, but as I've grown as a radio host and as a person, most of the messages I get now have kind of transformed with how I present information on the secret teachings. And so those messages are a lot more positive. Sometimes I get messages from people. It's very rare, though, who say things like that. And I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle, too. It kind of sounds insulting in a way, but it also kind of sounds sincere in a way.
I think what he needs to do is offer a solution or the truth instead of hinting that, that I just lack basic knowledge in certain things. I didn't get in this thing. If you're talking about UFOs, I probably lack some knowledge when it comes to UFOs. I didn't get into UFOs when we started this. It kind of led that direction because of the experiences of certain magicians and mystics. If you want to talk about religion and all of that, man, just, hey, there's a call-in number there. You can tell me how it is. It's 1-800-588-0335. Because when you say stuff like that and you don't really offer a solution, I don't know what to think.
Joe, I think part of this problem that we're addressing directly and partly indirectly is the image that we have as human beings of perceived authorities and like the alpha males in a group. And so if you put on a nice suit and you have a nice logo and you go on to television or on the radio and you talk and you promote your image as if you know what you're talking about, as if you know the truth, whatever that might be, you can be an idiot and you can be totally disconnected from any and everything related to that subject. But because you wear a nice suit and because you slick your hair back and because you have millions of listeners, because you have literally tens of millions of dollars that goes into promoting your show and you have big connections, you might be totally incompetent, but you look good. And since you look good, people are going to listen to you and they're going to believe those things that you say, and they're going to believe the things of other people you might interview. Not that they're all of the same caliber. They might be actual legitimate researchers or experiencers, et cetera, et cetera. So I think part of the problem is when you look at someone like, let's say, a David Wilcock, he doesn't say, this is what I found, what do you think? He says, this is what the cabal said, This is what I saw in secret communications. This is what the insider said. And he says it with so much belief and authority in terms of magic, his audience believes it. And that's different than somebody like, let's say, yourself.
Or Brad Olson.
Myself.
Yeah.
We just say, I don't know what it is. I mean, I'll give you a really quick example. And I do have that sound clip if you want me to try to play it. It's actually tomorrow night I'm going to do the show on the mysterious booms. Tonight I'm doing the show on something else. But those mysterious booms, I've done 3 shows in 2017 on the subject. 2 of those were prompted because I had my own experience with a mysterious boom in Boise, Idaho, and I heard a weird screeching sound too. If you're unaware of what this occurrence is around the world, it has been heard around the world. It's been heard all over the United States. Military, government, USGS, local law enforcement, nobody seems to have any idea what is causing these mysterious booms that can be heard from one side of the state to the other. And when they're heard from one place to another, it could be 10 miles away or 50 miles away. Everybody reports, no matter where they are, almost as if they're standing at ground zero, in the sense that they say it comes from above, from down below, from the left, from the right, from the front, from the back. It rattles the windows. It shakes the house. Like, these are massive explosions, but they're not really explosions. Nothing shows up on a seismograph, almost like the Men in Black have shown up and they've neuralized everybody in some cases. In other cases, police are overwhelmed with calls and still nothing on a seismograph, but people overall overwhelmingly agree that they heard something and they report it. So we could sit and examine that, as I have, and I truly, other than Clyde Lewis posting and talking about it here or there, I've never heard anybody else in media discuss the mysterious booms. So I've covered this for a couple of years now, and I have thought hundreds of things in passing, and I've isolated a few of those things down in terms of a theory of what I think is causing these mysterious booms. And I can give you my theory, but I'm not going to present it to you because I don't know, as if it's 100% factual, because it's not. And the more information I get, then the more detailed research that I have, the more time I can look at it and I can think about it, and then I can present it to you and you can help me out. You have your own story. You share it with me. A lot of my listeners have done that. Or you share stories with me that I might have missed in other parts of the country, a story of a mysterious boom, let's say, that I just didn't see, and you send it to me, I print it out, I put it in the archive. We're working together, audience, host. I'm also an audience member. I listen to shows as well. If I just sat here and said, see mysterious booms, it's proof that aliens are building bases underground across the country, and I said it with such enthusiasm, and I said that I have an insider who told me that these bases are being constructed, and here's proof there's mysterious booms in this city, in this city, in that city, and that means that aliens are working together with government to build underground bases. Well, that sounds authoritative if I present it in the right way. It's also kind of like a political debate. When you have a political debate with somebody, someone who has talking points and regurgitates rhetoric and just says, this is what we have to do to fix problems in America. This is what we have to do to fix healthcare. And they just repeat the same thing over and over and over and over again. Whether it's maybe the border crisis, people say, got to have a wall. Other people say, I don't want a wall. And then they argue for different reasons why they want or don't want a wall. But then in the middle, there are a handful of us who say, well, aren't there other solutions to this? What about removing incentives to come to the United States without the legal, without the legal process? What about spending money on infrastructure in the United States rather than building a wall? Like, I'm not supporting any of those things politically, Joe, but what I'm saying is, instead of looking at things from less than a black and white polarized point of view, there's another way to look at them. And if we just say, this is how it is, that becomes like a religion, and we defend our religion and we defend our faith, and we don't allow anybody else to say, hey, I've got a different point of view, and it's not that you're wrong, but here's some new information. So I guess the main point I'm trying to get across here, I just give a lot of examples, is that if you present something with strong authority, it's much more believable with talking points than it is with someone who is addressing things from a more philosophical point of view and saying, well, what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And that's a possibility. And let's have a look at all of this rather than just saying ignorantly that this is the cause and you should believe me because I'm on Gaia TV, or you should believe me because I'm in a nice suit. You should believe me because you're Republicans and you believe Republicans, so I have a red tie on, believe me. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's the authoritative nature that I think causes a lot of problems, and some people know how to manipulate that, and they make it work to their advantage.
Yeah, I understand. Well, you have to understand, too, that we got I mean, we've got a president that pretty much all he has to say is, man, this is the greatest ever. What about that? What about Alabama's, what about that show? What about this or that? That's the greatest ever. I'm the greatest this or that. And he gets millions of votes, and he literally doesn't really have to give you any facts. He can just say, I'm doing the best. I'm better than everybody. I'm the best ever. The best. This is the best. Let's try this out. Let's see if it works. This is the best show on radio, bar none. If you're listening to other shows right now, you got to be insane. This is the best, the best produced, the best everything. Lighting the Void is the best. I mean, it's just the best. All right, let's see how many people that brings. Works for Trump, right? Anyways, we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for the delightful evening. Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
From Studio 303, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM, bringing light to the stories that surround us. And from all of us at Studio 303 and the Stranger Than Fiction News, we wish you a very happy new year. And you can start that new year off with the controversial treatment that allows older people to fight the effects of aging with younger blood. Blood transfusions have been used to save lives for decades, but now one startup wants to use the medical procedure to combat the effects of aging by injecting older people with young blood. The treatment is called ambrosia, after the mythological food of the Greek gods, which granted whoever consumed it longevity or immortality. You can read all the details to this story at OddityCentral.com. And Australia is now home to the world's largest robot. When you hear world's largest robot has gone live in Australia, well, your mind might conjure up something like an anime-style giant. In fact, the announcement comes from an iron ore mining company, Rio Tinto, which recently launched its fully automated rail network, a series of mine-to-port trains able to run completely free of human intervention. These auto-haul trains travel approximately 800 kilometers and return in the journey, taking 40 hours to complete, including loading and dumping their cargo. The rail network is set up in Pilbara region of Western Australia. This article is posted at digitaltrends.com. And another Bigfoot sighting in Oregon. A woman in Oregon says she saw a large bipedal creature around her house in Columbia County. The woman, whose name and location were kept anonymous by the BFRO, says she had gotten up to let her dog out when she had noticed a strange smell. The dog, she explains, usually wants to stay out for about 2 hours, but that day he asked to come back inside immediately. She's quoted as saying it was June at about 7:30, and there was a strong smell of sewage. I could hear branches breaking along the side of my home. Nothing new, as deer go by often, and I didn't think much of it, she said. She claims as she walked into the bathroom, she noticed unusual movement through the bathroom window. So I took a closer look. A large animal, blackish, walking upright, going up the hill into the cemetery behind my home. She described it as 7 feet tall, dark-haired creature with a blocky build with square shoulders. Due to the combination of the dog's behavior, which is commonly reported with Sasquatches nearby, and the odor that she described, and a good sighting, there's no doubt that the witness was fortunate enough to view a Sasquatch walking by. This story is posted at cryptozoologynews.com. And for this edition's fun fact, for a brief time, Melbourne, Australia actually had the best name on the planet, Batmania. And that wraps it up for another edition of the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, anchor and news sorcerer.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Always remember you can contact this show by calling 1-800-588-0335. That's toll free from the United States or Canada. You can text into the show at 501-777-5631. Another way to get into the broadcast is by email, contact@lightingthevoid.com. We're here with Ryan Gable from The Secret Teachings, and we're discussing conspiracy theories, thought forms, and elementals. I have a theory that we're creating some of this stuff just by the stuff that we worry about. That could be a little bit new agey, but I'm concerned because some of the stuff that's really happening, radio frequencies and the microwave technology that we got in the air right now with these satellites that are about to happen. 20,000 are supposed to be here in the next couple of years. I'm a little bit concerned about what's going on, but I'm also, as I guess you could say, a student of Hermeticism. I'm also looking into the cause and effect of everything. I mean, our internet's plenty fast enough, you ask me. 4G is pretty quick, but to install more antennas at every 500 feet and put 20,000 satellites in the sky with 5G technology is a little insane, because where does it go from there? And that's not a conspiracy. If you wanted to put a conspiracy behind that, I could say, well, the government does have plans on killing us all, and this is how they're going to do it, because they have safe havens underground that they've been building for years. So once they kill us all off, then they're going to go underground. But that doesn't make sense either. So what I'm asking some of you to do is look at, just at the very least, look at some of these conspiracy theories that you think that are happening, and ask yourself what the end agenda is. Because if they kill us all, then they really don't have any power. You have to know that they depend on us, too. And Moonlit is on the phone with us here real quick. What's on your mind, Moon?
Hey, guys.
Howdy.
Hey, well, I wanted to talk about, you were trying to go through some of the reasons why they might be doing it. And you were going through, the first thing was talking about, well, they were trying to use the excuse that it was so they could, so they could get better access to the media and stuff like that, so we could get movies faster and all that good stuff. Well, you got to realize that we went back through and Congress shot down. They shut down net neutrality last year. Okay. I don't know if you guys remember what net neutrality was, but net neutrality was a bill that was keeping Obama put it through, that was making sure that there was the companies could not block any kind of or discriminate against any kind of website or applications. They couldn't throttle down any kind of internet sites or transmissions or content. They weren't allowed to go ahead and do anything because
well, it was also created net neutrality. It was to ensure that everybody gets access to the same tunnels on the web, so we get access to the same speeds, where there's nobody getting priority on the internet when it comes to transfer of information. That's what it was about, you know.
Yeah, it basically what it was like, you know, if you was you know, places like Time Warner, they, you know, since they had their own, they were their own ISP and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, but where does that tie into the 5G and all the 20,000 satellites and all that stuff?
Okay. Well, one of the reasons why you were saying is that if they were trying to say that the reason why they were putting up the 5G was so they could go ahead and make sure that they could have faster access to getting movies and stuff like that and media downloaded, by them going ahead and shooting down net neutrality, right there, they were taking away the idea of going ahead and getting faster access to media for us. You see?
Right. I see what you're saying.
They were already shooting down the idea of getting us faster access.
So basically what you're saying is the 5G infrastructure is just going to give those people that have priority over the internet faster access, not everybody else.
Right. So that was already taking away that idea. Basically what the 5G is giving you better coverage over everywhere. It's a more rounded coverage. So what you're seeing there is getting you a, you know, I work for a telecom company. We invented this type of technology, okay?
What company invented it?
Nortel Networks, Northern Telecom. Bell in Canada. In Canada, it was AT&T, Bell Networks. It was all together. In the United States, because of you know, they split up the Bell Networks because of the you know, the I can't even speak now. It's 3:00 in the morning. Because of
yeah, it's all right.
You know, you can't have monopolies and stuff. They broke up the Bell company, so they split up the Bell manufacturing. So the Bell became the manufacturing part became Northern Telecom in the United States, and the AT&T became the supplier of other equipment and also the communications.
Right.
Okay.
I got
and if you guys don't know, by the way, the internet is just a phone network, okay? The internet is actually just a phone network that runs across the world. The internet, all your internet traffic runs across the phone lines.
Well, it's not, I'm not worried about the internet or how data is transferred amongst phone lines. What I'm worried about is the test results from the microwaves from 5G towers and satellites. The test results that they did on animals with 5G waves that they were supposed to do.
That's where it all ties back into it all, is that you're getting back into the situation now. You're going to have more towers. You're going to have more sources of the radiation and everything like that. You're going to have a broader spectrum of radiation, and it's going to be coming from more sources. So when you move about, there's less places that you can hide from the signals. So you can be tracked more effectively. Every place you go now with the 5G, you're going to be totally covered. Every little nook and cranny of the earth you're going to be at, you're going to be covered. So when the different types of signals that you get, the higher the frequency, the more of a direct line it is.
Right.
The lower the frequency, like the short wave is a longer, taller wave. The higher the frequency, it's a more of a direct line. So that's why they need to have more towers.
You know how a microwave works, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So what it is that by doing more and more towers and more satellites, they have more angles to get to you, and they can pinpoint you more accurately. Okay?
I get what you're saying, but we got to get to, there's got to be, what are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is that all this ties in is like for your GPS and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They need at least three points to triangulate your position on the globe.
Okay.
Well, if you got the more points you have, the more accurate it is.
Right. So you're saying that this is a thing that's actually set up, that's could be being sold to us for faster internet speed, so we'll buy into it. But it's really just about, being able to locate and triangulate people much faster and more frequently.
Yeah, that's part of it. And all this is going to be tied into for surveillance. It's going to be tied into every little bit for the NSA and every little bit for security and everything like that. It's all part of that type of and I don't want to get too paranoia on this, but it's all tied into that kind of
no, I mean, that's perfectly fine, Moon. I don't doubt for 1 minute, okay, that there could be some conspiracy behind it via military or corporate or whatever, or intelligence. I don't doubt that. The stuff you're saying. You're
worried about us getting cooked.
Yeah, what I'm talking about
on all this stuff
is people's health.
But, yeah. When we started out with the phones, when we used to have the car phones, they were at 50 watts in the cars, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, then they went down from those. Then we went to the carry-around phones, and they went down to 25 watts.
Okay.
And then we went to the big cell phones that were 5 watts. And then we went down to these little cell phones, and we had more towers. And every time we get the more towers, the wattage goes down in the phones and the devices. So the devices don't have to have as many watts, and they get into microwatts now. And you get the little watches and stuff, and they're dealing with microwatts. That's why you have to have more and more towers, because the devices aren't putting out as much power, okay? So
yeah, I get what you're saying, but the 5G product will also have multiple phased array antennas as well. Now that creates a more powerful beam and it is radiation, whether you want to admit it or not. It's real radiation, and that feeds it back to the other 5G devices mounted on utility poles. So we've got more radiation that's 10 times stronger. The only reason why we're not cooking is because we're not closed in. We're not closing in with walls. Say if we put walls around the earth, then we cook. Right? But that's the one reason why we're not cooking, because the stuff doesn't get intense. It's not intense like a microwave. It can escape. It's got somewhere to go. It doesn't intensify, but it's still, they're putting these things on mice, and it still caused tumors, and nobody batted an eye. Maybe it didn't cause enough tumors.
And we still do that with our cell phones. People put them up to their heads all day long. People stick them in their pockets.
You know, another interesting.
People still don't.
What's that, Ryan?
And they still don't realize what they're doing to themselves. They're especially, the worst part about it is that when they're dealing with a child's brain, they're 100 times worse than they are for an adult.
Mm.
With a child's brain is still developing, and you're giving it to your kids, and the kids are sticking it up to their heads, then that's where you're really seeing the problems with cancer developing in the child's brain. When you're dealing with the adults' brains are already developed, and you're not going to get that. You're not going to get the mutations as bad as you would with a child. That's why you really don't want to stick it in the child's hands.
Yeah, I don't know about all of that. I mean, I just don't know about that. I'm not a doctor or anything. What were you saying, Ryan?
Well, I have researched that, and the skull of a baby, of an infant, of a toddler is not as fully developed, so they are affected differently than an adult. But I was going to say in terms of looking at this from more of a philosophical, or I guess philosophical is the right word, but trying to look at it objectively and asking the question, why is it that, Joe, you can sit and you can do research the entire day and you can find scientists, you can find engineers. I don't care about anybody's personal belief as per the credibility of those people, but you can find legitimate people who even maybe work in the industry. And you can find that information, you can compile it, and you can present it to somebody else. Now, you might have spent 10 hours, you might have spent an hour, you might have spent 30 minutes doing that. And what concerns me is the addressing of your research. I'm not saying tonight, I'm just saying in this example, of your research by someone who just simply dismisses it without any investigation. No, that's not true. No, that can't be true. See, there's like a mental illness here, and there's a belief system, just like any religion, just like any political party, just like any belief that you've had since you've been a child and you're 30, 40, 50 years old. No one's ever challenged you on belief. You just believe it. So Joe can do the research, but you don't believe him despite the fact that you haven't done any research. And so because what your belief is a talking point of industry or a talking point of some government official influenced by industry, it's accepted. And they can repeat and regurgitate the talking point and the rhetoric, and that sounds better than someone who's questioning and looking at other possibilities and referencing material from, let's say, scientists, engineers, people in the industry, in telecommunications, who do know that placing a cell phone up against your head can't be good for you. It's not making you smarter. So my issue is in terms of philosophically examining this, the example I gave with the conspiracy theory earlier, I'm tired personally of being on the hot seat. And for years and years and years, I just accepted that as a natural, normal part of life, being interested in learning rather than just simply allowing my life to go to waste and letting other people determine how I was going to live my life. I'm tired of being on the hot seat and having to constantly defend, well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist now. And wait a minute, hold on a second. Don't say that. I'm turning things around on people. I'm tired of being called a conspiracy theorist. You tell me, why am I a conspiracy theorist? You tell me why that's wrong. Tell me why Joe's wrong. You tell me why we're wrong. We did the research. We read. It might be wrong. The information we have might be incorrect. But from what I understand, 9 out of 10 people, and I'm just kind of using just a general, it's an exaggeration. It's not some scientific statistic, but 9 out of 10 people who say you're a conspiracy theorist just say you're a conspiracy theorist. They don't even know what those words mean. They just say it. It's like a defensive mechanism to deflect any criticism of their belief, which is usually a belief in the structure, like between mom and dad, protective guardians, whether they perceive that as government or they perceive that as a corporation. It's just really unbelievable to me that someone who can sit and spend their entire life investigating something, they will be dismissed. And someone who doesn't spend any time doing anything can say, you're wrong, and dismiss all of that research just because their belief is considered acceptable and your belief is not considered acceptable. So we need to step up and walk away from the hot seat, stop defending the talking points, and turn that stuff around on those people and say, wait a minute, you think it's a conspiracy theory that smart meters emit radiation? Well, hold on a second. Explain to me, one, what is a conspiracy theory? I'm listening. Okay, now why don't you explain to me this congressional report I have right here in front of me that says otherwise? Why don't you explain to me 100 scientists over here who explain otherwise? Those TSA body scanners, why don't you explain to me why Johns Hopkins University and while TSA officers at Boston International Airport, why don't you explain to me why universities and hundreds of scientists all say the very opposite of what you believe? I've done the research. You've sat there and played video games and watched television. Tell me why I'm wrong. Explain it to me. And they never can because they have no idea how to defend what they believe except to use those talking points and rhetoric. So my point is stop defending the talking points and rhetoric and do your own thinking.
Yeah, and you got to you hear all the people say do your own research, but it doesn't mean that anybody's going to do it, right? I mean, we know the stuff is radiation, right? We know it is.
But one of the things you were talking about earlier, Ryan, was when you were talking about those booms and stuff like that, people don't want to hear you talk about, well, it could be this and it could be that. They want to hear you say,
it's aliens.
Well, no, they want to hear you say that it's swamp gas, it's happening up in the atmosphere, it happens, it explodes, it's not going to hurt you, go home, go to sleep.
Or they want you to say it's aliens. They don't want the boring research. That's the way they look at it, you know.
Yeah,
My favorite
some
explanation.
people do want to hear you say that. The rest of them just want you to say everything's good. You're safe. Go home.
Yeah.
And
My favorite
that's why
explanation.
Fox News has the high ratings,
Oh.
and CNN explains things and looks at it both ways. That's why they have low ratings.
Hell yeah. Thanks for your call, Moon. I appreciate it, brother. Thanks for calling.
Okay, guys. You have a good night.
All right. It is 3 o'clock in the morning for Moon, actually. So that's cool that he stays up and listens to the show. But he's got a good point. I don't know. Like, I got to be honest with you. As a radio host, as a podcast or radio host or whatever you want to call it, and everybody out there that does a show or radio host, the main thing you want is more listeners. That's what you want. You want more listeners. There was people that'll say, well, I don't care about that, but what they say and do after they say they don't care proves otherwise, right? But the problem is what you have to do to get more listeners and stuff. What do you have to do? Who do you have to become? What image do you have to put on? And that's the whole problem with Truth Seeking. It's not just radio and podcast. That's like one aspect of it. It's TV and everything else. There's still people to this day, Ryan, that talk about Building 7 that think that there's no way that was a controlled demolition. And it doesn't take any kind of research to look at that thing fall and say, well, it looks like a controlled demolition before you even get into the research. There's no way our government would do that. And then there's other people say, well, that was an alien space weapon that was, came from a hologram thing. And if you don't believe me, then you need to look into the truth. And it's like, this is why I don't go down this road, because I'd rather talk about my experience and the stories and stuff, or other people's experiences, because I feel like I get more truth from that. I don't know. Did you have that clip, by the way? Did you ever get that thing put up?
I do have the clip, and I was just going to say that our own experiences, and I relate that directly to doing our own research. And I don't mean that in terms of rhetoric. I mean researching and investigating. Like when I heard that mysterious boom in Boise, Idaho last year, I did my own investigation. I went out and I talked to people in public. I documented what they said. I contacted the USGS. I contacted BPD, Boise Police Department. I contacted the Boise State University and the department that dealt with seismographs that they had set up. I contacted local newspapers, and television stations. I did all of that. That's what journalism is. That's what investigation is. When I say do research, that's what I mean. I don't mean like do research and nobody really explains what that means. Like, think for
You mean look up an article on the internet? Right.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Right. And sometimes that is research. Like if you look up one of these stories of these mysterious booms, I can literally pull out over 100 articles I have in a file physically that I've printed out over the years. So in that case, yeah, that would be kind of research. But I don't mean going online and reading divinecon.com and thinking that it's true. But I do have that clip queued up if you want me to play it.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear what millions of people right now are pushing. I want to hear this. Let's get it over with.
This is what the cabal has planned for the United States of America.
They have actually put explosive charges into every bridge on the Eisenhower interstate system that goes over these big chasms. And the governors of each state have secret codes to blow those bridges, which they then disguise it as if it was a temperature and pressure sensor that these guys put in there to make sure the bridge isn't going to crumble, right? But it can actually be used as an explosive. And they would even steer the roads to make sure they go through these chasms. And on the secret level, they were told, we got to do it this way so that if we get a land invasion, that we can stop the tanks from rolling into the middle of America. So there's literally no way to get off the coast and go inland except over these bridges that they could blow. Okay.
So that's the first part of the cabal's two-part plan, is to blow up the bridges so that you can't travel across them. No evidence, no reference, no even inside information. Just he said that he saw the cabal's playbook. Really just incredible. So here's the next part of it. He says that they're going to siphon the gas out of your car with a tanker truck.
But what they didn't tell you is that they intended to blow all the bridges and bring America to its knees, create mass starvation, mass chaos. That's part of the plan. And the plan also included that the military goes around under the guise of national security, and they literally go around and they siphon out the gas from everybody's cars in these big tankers.
Siphon out the gas of everybody's car in these big tankers. Can you imagine?
He had me at the explosion thing. I could believe that from a military standpoint. Once you get everybody in, close the perimeter down. If there's a land invasion, they've been blowing bridges on wars for a long time. This starvation and kill everybody thing is where it gets crazy to me. I mean, it could be real, but what are we basing this off of? An insider, I think, right? Is that what it was?
In this case, I don't know if there's even an insider. This is just what he said is the cabal's plan. He said he saw the cabal playbook. I guess they have like a playbook with plays, like diagrams drawn up like a football coach would use. You know, they've got like the whiteboard, and I guess they get together and, all right, now Kissinger, you cut up the left side of the field, and Rockefeller, you go to the right, and then I'm going to drop back, and I'm gonna toss the Hail Mary. I don't know. Is that it, or
is there more to it besides taking our gas and starving us?
Dude, there is so much. I don't know. I could literally do a show every day on what this guy says. It's just every day something new when he talks. Otherwise, he'll go into hibernation for like 6 months, then come out and make these claims. And it's not just David Wilcock. I just pick on him because he targeted me and said, if Ryan comes to contact, I'm not coming, and tried to blackball me from these other conferences. It's the numerous people that you've never heard of on YouTube that just make wild claims, and because they have a YouTube channel, they're believed. But primarily, you're looking at like the Wilcocks and the Benjamin Fulfords. Like, have you listened to what that guy says? And he never has any proof of anything. He just says his sources at the CIA, his sources at the Pentagon. What sources? If you're really unveiling that kind of information and it's true, these people would have you killed. Whoever this cabal is, they have assassinated U.S. presidents in broad daylight in a major U.S. city before. These people execute, historically, political dissidents. Do you think that if they're really after you, that they can't shut down your PayPal account, they can't shut down your YouTube page, but the way that they attack you, according to David Wilcock, is dislike your YouTube videos? I mean, Joe, my YouTube page is trashed. I'm shadow banned on Facebook, and yet these people are not? If they really wanted to get you, they'd get you. This is just a mirage, just like when Emery Smith wears a bulletproof vest. Dude, if they wanted to kill you, the CIA, there's a documentary made about this. The CIA had a gun that they could give you a heart attack with from like 100 yards away. Do you really, really think that wearing a bulletproof vest on the outside of your clothing, like your officer, what's that guy's name from Reno 911? The guy that wears the bulletproof vest on the outside of his clothes. I forget what his name is. Junior. Yeah, but this guy, Emery Smith, wears a bulletproof vest on the outside of his clothes like he's Officer Junior from Reno 911. It's all for image. And that's what I was saying earlier about the authority. If you walk around with a bulletproof vest, people are going to think, oh, my God, they're really trying to kill him. It's a joke. It's a joke. If they really wanted to kill you, they would just kill you.
Hey, you know what? You remember I did the show about image one time, right? Do you remember? I don't know if I ever told you this, but I actually paid for a publicist one time because I wanted to get more listeners because I didn't know.
I think you said that, yeah.
Yes, I wanted to do I wanted to do a more local push here and try to figure out how to, because I only had so much money, so I wanted to, I don't know, get the word out a little bit more. And the first thing this person told me to do was get black and white headshots of like me posing in different poses and stuff. And I was like, what? I was like, this is a radio show, right? And they were like, yeah, but you need some black and whites, and you need to like put, some showing you hug aliens and just all kinds of stuff. And I was thinking, this reminds me of the modeling schools I went back did when I was trying to do acting. They sent me into modeling, and it disgusts me, not because I think it's wrong, because it's a reality that image is everything. Right. So, and on the internet, the way that works is clickbait in titles. That channel I showed you literally has the word Illuminati and Satan in every third video, and they've got 500,000 subscribers because of it. And on YouTube, all you got to do is get a click or one subscribe, and you're good. As long as you put those words in there, you're going to get it. I've done the experiments myself. So the image thing is crazy. So the truth about why they may have explosives under bridges is probably pretty boring. But if you start out telling the truth and then add all this, they're going to starve you and siphon your gas stuff out, and then they're going to go into their secret bases, it becomes entertainment. And then you sprinkle in, well, think about what if it could be true? I mean, if it could be true, then we really need to look into this, don't you think? And then you don't know what the hell to think anymore. Is that all that's on that clip, though? There's no more.
Well, like I said,
that, is there?
It goes on and on. I mean, I have 1, 2, 3. I've got 7 or 8 different clips here. I was going to do a show on that subject coming up soon. So I've got a bunch of clips here, just other things that this guy said, other things Emery Smith has said too. These people are like perceptually leading the community that all of us are a part of, if you consider yourself a part of a community.
Yeah.
And these people that quote unquote speak for us, which they don't speak for me, although from the outside looking in, anybody who's interested in this, I've told the story about the gentleman at Contact in the Desert who went to the front row and sat down when Linda Moulton Howe was talking, and the guy literally got up and asked Linda Moulton Howe a question. I was going to get up too, but I was waiting for the line to get smaller. And this guy, he had apparently never been interested in this stuff. Looked like he had come by himself. And it seemed like maybe he was just an older guy who watched Ancient Aliens once, decided to come to the conference, see Linda. I'm not even sure if he really knew who she was, because he acted like he had never heard her before. He went up and started talking to her on the microphone, and he asked her, so, Linda, have you ever heard of the 5 alliance groups? And she said, no. And you could tell she started smiling like, oh, boy, it's one of those guys. And he said, like, the guy started to get angry with her. He said, but David Wilcock just gave a presentation about the 5 alliance groups. She said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, well, but he just presented all that information about it. She said, I've never heard of that before. And so then the guy got like really upset, and he said, well, then you've got some research to do. After her presentation, where she actually like documented most of the things that she said and then speculated on the areas and said, this is speculation, I don't know, like actual investigation.
Yeah, she's a real journalist. I mean, she is. It's good she stood her ground like that, though, in the face of a crowd. You know, that to me, and you've done that too, when you're in the face of a mob or a crowd and you stand your ground and say, you know, there's actual, believe it or not, pressure to shake your head and go, yeah, you know, and just say something that's going to make them happy. But to say, oh, I don't know that could be true. That's what integrity means. For example, right, there's a lot of people that believe the Antarctica thing, the alien bases in Antarctica. And we both know Brad Olson, and I know everybody can't take a trip to Antarctica, but this guy wants to know the truth so bad. He's down there right now looking around. Or he's on his way there. You got to respect that, right? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we got to do, because based on Brad's experience, maybe he does something, maybe he sees something, maybe he doesn't, but at least he'll know. That's the kind of stuff I respect.
What I was alluding to is that I think so many people have never thought about these things before, and I myself have had this experience because I grew up maybe interested in aliens, watch Independence Day or something like that. But
yeah,
as I got older and I became really interested in these types of things and I wanted to read and learn about them, my sources of information were the sources of information that a lot of people go to today. At one point, when I was like 18, 19, when I first started radio, I didn't take his information as like fact and go do shows on it, but I just searched for things online, and I came across David Wilcock, and I watched a lot of his videos. In fact, a lot of his earlier stuff was actually kind of,
it was good,
real.
I thought it was, yeah.
It was real when he was a real person. And then things changed, and I changed as well. I started to notice and have personal experiences with some of these people, but I started to notice and I started to learn. And with my experiences, I started to grow and recognize that some people I thought I could trust, I can't trust. Some people I didn't think I could trust, I found out that I could trust. And then I met other people along the way I never thought I'd meet. And that's led me to where I am today. And so I share those experiences with you, and especially the ones where I know that certain people are making things up. I know that, like the Jimmy Church Malibu UFO base, totally made up. And I can explain the backstory to that with the Dark Matter Radio Network, because I was there, and I was that network because of that.
Here's the thing about Jimmy. Jimmy is like, and I don't talk about Jimmy Church that much because I respect him as an entertainer. But all of you people out there that are attacking this guy need to realize that he has a natural craft of surviving even the worst criticism. And he's going to survive everything that you guys catch him in, and he's going to be the next host of Coast to Coast, whether you like it or not, because he's put in the time and all this other stuff. What he has done is he's figured out a way to back away from all of it without taking a side, which is what a radio host is supposed to do. It's the same thing Art Bell would have done. But some of us, I think radio needs to change in a big way. I really do. I think it's time for a change because we're not respected. You guys want respect, and you're mad at people because they don't believe you. And that's because the biggest guy that everybody listens to is Joe Rogan right now. Everybody listens to this guy, at least a little or a lot. And right now, what he's saying about you and I in this community is that we're a bunch of people. This is literally his words. We're a bunch of people that can't get laid, that don't have lives. And so what we do is we try to make up stories to entertain ourselves. That's what he thinks about you and I. And that's a problem. And now that we've got, you guys got to understand how big of an influence he is, whether he's a shill or not. He influences people. And so until people start doing actual journalism and research instead of following the entertainment, this is the way things are going to be looked at on our end of the fence.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to say, I know that I get kind of excited here. When I talk about people by name, it's usually because I've had firsthand experience with them. And it's my personal belief. I think, Joe, you share this belief, and I'm sure that a lot of listeners feel this way too. When you learn something of the nature of anything that we talk about, you tend to want to share it with others because it's very interesting. So you try to share it with people. Some people reject it. Some people think it's great and they believe it. Regardless of whatever the case is, you learn something and it becomes a part of you and it helps you to grow. And some of those things that you learn might be true, they might be untrue, whatever the case is. Again, you're learning, you're growing, you're trying to better yourself in some way, whatever the interest that you may have is. When we address somebody by name, I personally do that not just because I've had a direct experience, but because I really, truly think that these people are dangerous. And I really, truly think that they are doing a great disservice to, just for all intents and purposes, this community. I think they're doing a great disservice because they're insincere, because half of the things that they say, I can prove that they're wrong, and I can 100% show you that some of the things that they say are literally taken from the synopsis of some movies. I was astounded I watched a random sci-fi flick on Netflix a couple of months ago, and then I turned on and I had watched some videos of Emery Smith, and then I went to their website, one of their websites, and was reading something, and literally, Joe, they had the synopsis, not copied and pasted, but the synopsis for what Corey Good and Emery Smith, one of the two, said that they experienced was this movie. It was literally a movie. So some of the things they say are easily disprovable. Other things might not be disprovable, but they're not really provable either. And they're the what ifs. And if that's just the entertainment you want, I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is selling entertainment as fact and slowly and easily, or rather not easily, but slowly and aggressively chipping away at all of the work that people over the years, real journalists, real authors, real people, legitimate investigators have done. And I don't take that as something that we should just simply ignore, because we have a responsibility as radio hosts. You might be an author listening. You might be a researcher listening. We have a responsibility to not only be moral about what we do, but to present things in a way where we are honest with you as listeners. And you have that responsibility morally to be honest with yourself and to be honest with others in your life. At least that's how I see things. So if I see somebody being disingenuous and being dishonest and manipulating, and in some cases outright lying, that person needs to be addressed for what they're doing, because that person is discrediting and making me, and it is a selfish thing for me directly, but it also affects all of you. It's making me and you and Joe and everybody else look really, really bad, look really, really stupid, and it feeds the flames of what Joe said about Joe Rogan, about how I didn't hear that. I don't listen to Joe Rogan, but if that's the case, how he and so many other people think that we're just Looney Tunes, when I can sit down and I can pull out documentation for 90% of the things that I say. The other 10% is just pure speculation based off of that evidence. So again, the reason that I address people by name is either personal experience or because those people I think are dangerous and they're doing a great disservice to whatever it is that they call the truth, which I really am tired of hearing about that, Joe. I don't know about you.
Oh, I'm dead tired of it, right? So there's nothing wrong with entertainment, and I love entertaining radio. Now, one of the best talk radio apps you could pull up and ever listen to is TalkStream Live, period. It's got all the best talk shows on it. If you pull up that app, you're going to see the number one person who's holding the numbers right now, and that's Ground Zero. Now, right next to that is Heather Wade. Now, here are two different types of shows. Whether you want to believe it or not, these are two types of different shows. In my opinion, I don't have a thing against Heather. Nothing. As a matter of fact, I think she's pretty resilient, and she's showing everybody that how resilient she is. To me, that's admirable, regardless of everything that she's went through. But this guy right here, do you guys know about Clyde Lewis? The reason why we talk about him so much is because Clyde is we don't look at him like some patron saint. We're talking about an evolution of radio. I've listened to callers call him, and I've seen so much pressure come down on him to take one side or the other on a situation that there are no real facts for, circumstantial evidence, with millions of listeners and God knows how many managers, producers, or whatever probably telling him what to do at the same time, and still yet give an honest and authentic response, and he's grabbing, I imagine, millions of listeners. So there's nothing wrong with entertainment radio, but when you push your stuff to the truth community, then you've got a whole different monster on your hands. And so we know that YouTube influences more than this, obviously, and probably more than TalkStream Live. But there needs to be a change that's happening. There needs to be more than just Clyde Lewis doing this. That's all I'm saying.
You brought up Art Bell earlier, and I think that we should address that momentarily too, because no matter what Art Bell was, I had a lot of respect for Art Bell. I don't respect Jimmy Church at all. I don't respect Heather Wade at all, period. Although a lot of things about Art Bell I disagree with. I respect Art Bell, but a lot of the things, if you are to look at some of the things that Art Bell, I wouldn't say believed, but didn't want to talk about, fine, your show, don't have to talk about it. But the way in which you would do it, which Heather Wade does it too, cut people off for talking about 9/11, cut people off for talking about vaccines, cut people off for saying things in a way that you don't like the way that they say it. We do need a change in the radio community. Yeah. And if that's what sells, and that's what gets the big numbers, and that's what gets you to coast, and that's what you want, fine. And if that's what you want to listen to as a listener, fine. I'm not criticizing that. Personally, that's not how I roll. Personally, I don't just look at the world and say, oh, that's just how it is, accept it. I don't accept it. I want things to change, and I want things to change for the better for every single one of us. That means we make a big change in the way that we look at things, and we make a big change in the way that we handle things. And that's why I have no problem telling people to their face, you're wrong, I can prove it, here's the evidence. If you have an issue with that, you can take it up with the evidence. Don't take it up with me. This is a fact, that's a fact. This is speculation, that's speculation, but that's a fact. And if we can look at things in an objective way without defending some belief system, and we can look at something in the face and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't respect you. I'm sorry, you're wrong. I'm not going to bow down to you because you have a C2C. I'm not bowing down to you because your show fades to black. I'm not bowing down to you because you have 10 million listeners. If you're wrong about something, you're wrong about something. And if you want to acknowledge it, then that makes me call into question your authority on other things. So my point is, with Art Bell and with a few other radio hosts that we could talk about, the ones that censor what they do, I don't think we need that anymore. I don't think we need the censorship and the, well, don't say certain things and don't say that person's name. That's unprofessional. No, what's unprofessional is lying. What's unprofessional is selling something that's real as fake because it gets more views, because it sells more T-shirts, because it sells more books. That's what's immoral. That's what's wrong. What needs to change is that. And when we can change that, then we can find that we can actually be honest with each other, and we don't have people telling us that there's a sex colony on Mars because NBC published a story about a telescope in space. We get rid of all that nonsense. We can be a lot more honest, not just about the types of things that we know to be true, but we can be more honest with ourselves in our everyday lives, and that is just so critically important to me, Joe.
But it's your tone, Ryan, your tone. If you could just change your tone, because it sounds like you're talking down to people, Ryan. Your tone makes me feel, I get that a lot about, let me tell you something, for the few people out there that I understand where you're coming from, but not everybody sounds pleasant when they're passionate about something. Ryan's show is growing, folks. It's growing to the point where it's surprising me. Right now, I'm looking at the map on the, I'm looking at the network map, and they're not here for Lighting the Void. They're not here for this show. They're waiting on Ryan. And I don't know how you're going to take this, Ryan, because I don't know if you've ever done this live or not, but you're on the cusp right now, my man. So for all the naysayers out there, there's a whole lot more people that would rather have authenticity in somebody that's honest with them, and that somebody that cares, really cares. Because I see it. And I don't know. I may be wrong. I'm just looking at numbers here, but what about feedback? Have you gotten a little bit more feedback now that you've been broadcasting regularly over here?
Yeah, I've talked to you about that off air. I would say that it's increased probably tenfold. At least in terms of emails and books sold and things like that. So much, much bigger response than I could have ever imagined.
It has nothing to do with the Fringe FM, as much as Ryan might say, oh, the Fringe FM, this. It has nothing. It has everything to do with, this is worth it to me. And one day, no matter what happens, there will be a primetime guy on this network that's going to be here, and they're going to get what they're worth. Even if I've got to move out of the way. That I promise. There are hosts out there right now that deserve so much more than they're getting. That's all I'll say. And there's more than one of them. There's a few. And this is another reason why we think that this is important. Because if millions of people are following somebody that's being authentic and passionate with them and is really trying to help them and really digging in, I can tell you for a fact, every time I talk to Ryan, whether it's during the day or whenever I call him, he's working on his show. He's working on research. He's not just doing 10 to 15 minutes of prep before the show starts. This is his life. And you guys hear it it's a beautiful thing. I love it. But it's important. It's important that we go down this road. That doesn't mean that all the other shows you don't have to listen to. It's just like I've got this one listener that's always like, well, you play replays during the day. Well, yeah, most stations do. That's what that button's for. Turn the channel, Heck of a lot easier than whining for 3 months. But I hope that I don't want Ryan to be the only guy doing this. I'm not that guy. I'm just some guy that's on a journey trying to figure stuff out. I'm not in Brian's shoes, but I will be behind him every step of the way. I can say that. And a lot of you are picking up the pace, and I like to see that. So it's not totally negative. It's not all bad. There is a little bit of a shift happening. But we need more people to get behind it. We need more people to challenge what's being put out there. Not just on radio, but on YouTube and social media. Everything needs to be challenged. And even if Art Bell had, some people call in and say they're flying over Area 51, whatever, and yeah, he wouldn't let people talk about certain subjects, but one of the reasons why a lot of people loved him too was if you didn't believe what somebody was saying, he would allow you to say that. He wouldn't just take the side of the guest all the time. Not all the time. And he would even ask a question if something was wild. Ask yourself what he would say to some of these stories. He asked the right questions. God, have we gotten so far away from that? Just asking the right questions, I think.
You got that right.
Now it's all a theater. And my whole point when we started the show is what we focus on becomes manifest. If you're in the New Age or whatever community you think you're in, if you really believe that in your heart, then you need to step back before you jump on a belief and say, let's look at this thing, and jump on board when you see a whole bunch of people following something that might be crazy. What if that's real? What if they do manifest that stuff? I don't know. I'm digressing here, but we got a couple of minutes left here. So what are you going to be talking about tonight, Ryan?
Well, we have a responsibility to do those things, Joe. That's very important. All of us have a responsibility, and I'm not angry. I am just passionate, and I know that you're passionate. You come off a different way. I come off a different way, but I'd rather somebody mistake my passion for anger than somebody mistake my image for authority and knowledge when I don't really have either one, or right. I have parts of it, but I'm totally lost and don't really care. What I have coming up tonight, the show is called Fighting the Woman, capital M-A-N, Fighting the Woman. It's not some sexist show. It's not anti-woman, but I'm looking at how the head of the CIA now and the two highest positions under that head are all women, and how that's according to an NBC article I have, and then a Newsweek, I think it's a Newsweek story. It's about, and Politico, it's about how the top defense contractors now are all run by women, and how apparently that's a progressive thing, that women run the CIA, women run the defense contractors. But the big question is, does that mean that the world is better now that women run the CIA and defense contractors? Does that mean that people are going to live in peace now? So I'm looking at that question alongside of the government shutdown, and how I don't think it's government's responsibility to pay for your food or for your medicine, but if we accept that that's the case and some of us need help, why is it that billions and trillions of dollars can be set aside for military spending, but the USDA doesn't have enough money to pay for food stamps for the month of February? That's according to dozens and dozens of mainstream publications, and they're publishing those to try to get people upset at Donald Trump, when the reality should be, why doesn't the government have money to pay for food stamps? They have billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars to pay defense contractors to build weapons, but they're run by women now, so it's okay, but they don't have $5 to throw at you for a bag of brown rice. So we're going to be addressing all of that tonight in the theme of fighting the man, but with now women in charge of a lot of these places, fighting the woman. And tomorrow we'll talk about the mysterious booms on the secret teachings.
Right on. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Joe. We'll do it anytime that you want to do a show. I'm always here for you.
Sounds good. And you guys don't forget, we'll be back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Pacific, same time all the way. And even after this show, the Secret Teachings, we're here every night, at least 5 hours of live programming for you, Monday through Friday. And even we have weekend shows that do the same. Also, support us if you can, please, because we could really use it right now. And send to Eric Markham your love, because he needs that as well. And don't forget that this show is produced by The Fringe FM and cannot be rebroadcasted or syndicated without written permission. And music was by Chronix, Kevin MacLeod, Space Station, and Bundy. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Good night.
expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better, and we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Yahoy there. This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare to